Hi YouTube, Mr. Dodo8449 here. This is part 5, I think, of the of how to build a layout from start to scenery that I'm doing. Basically, I'm just showing you what I would have done if I'd known all about this when I started my 00 gauge layout, which is upstairs. This is in N gauge. It's smaller, cheaper, and well, I've got quite a nice layout. At least I think I've got quite a nice layout here, and it's a very small board shelf layout. Now, the way I've designed it is that this can be extended at any point just by adding modules onto the end. So that's why I've got one track that runs right to the edge here, and another one which will run right to the edge there. So if I want to, I can just extend this out and make it bigger or whatever, which is quite nice. So anyway, excuse me. In the first video, I showed you well, the basic layout design. Here it is. I showed you the basic layout design. If you just want to click on that, it'll be a link to part 1. But you can see how the layout is looking. Got a river or a canal or something. 2 bridges going across here. Nice bit of grass with a loading area. That's actually going to be a sawmill in that corner. So anyway, yeah, it's quite nice. In video 2, I explained about the baseboard, how to get the design from the from the picture that you just saw onto the baseboard by using this method of squares, which I thought worked really well. And in fact, this here is one of the original lines that I'd marked out and drew, and you can see where the point actually sits. I was all of a centimetre off. That was actually my fault. I misjudged it at this end. But the rest of them have actually been bang on. For instance, here, this one has been right on the money, exactly where it's going to sit. So yeah, so that method works really well. Part 3, I talked about the actual baseboard, and you need to do the scenery that involves cutting the baseboard or rising the baseboard, i.e. rivers or canals or anything like that, ravines, things like that, or rising it like if you want to move your track from one level to another or something like that, you need to do that at this point here. The next stage I did was the last video, which was laying down the track in the, well, actually laying it and tacking it down with nails so it wouldn't move anywhere. Checking it all fitted, then marking on the positions of the point motors, which are these 4 holes here, and then drawing a line around the rest of the outside of the track. Now, the line is quite important for this stage. Well, for the next stage I'll talk about in a minute. Excuse me. But as you can see now, I've cut out the holes for the point motors. If I can find a point motor, there's one. I actually need to get 2 more of these. This now fits in. See, it sits right in the hole there. And when I stick a point on it, this will actually be lifted up very slightly. So it'll sit something like that when there's a point on it. I'll get that out of the way. So I've got 4 nail holes, which is what I'm going to be doing. There's 2 ways of attaching point motors onto track. I believe they fit N gauge and 00 gauge. In fact, I know they fit N gauge and 00 gauge. I think they also fit Z and 009 gauge as well, which is the Pico PL10 or the PL10E point motor. I believe that's right. I'm not too sure about the second 2 scales, but I definitely know 00 and N gauge fit. So, that's quite good. Now, the 2 methods are: you can buy a mounting plate which sticks on these 6 uprights. Then you screw the mounting plate to the underside of the baseboard, and then the arm. You have to drill a 10 mil hole so that the arm has got enough movement to move left and right, and then that attaches onto the other side of the point. Or the method which I'm using, you can attach this directly onto the underside of the point. If I can find a point. Actually, there's no point. I've tried it before. They're so small you can hardly see it. Or you can do the method, yeah, which is attach onto the underside of the point, and then you get a direct coupling between the point and the point motor, and that's quite good. But yeah, they just fit in the hole quite nicely, and yeah. So the next stage, once you've cut out the holes for the point motors, is you need to apply your your road bed or track bed or whatever you want to call it. Now, there are 2 common ways. Probably the most common is cork, but I didn't have cork. I use this, which is I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's foam. But it's not very. It's quite hard foam. I'm not quite sure what it is though. Which means it's absolutely perfect for road beds because there's a little bit of squidginess in them. So when you nail the track down, they like pull into it. but they do the perfect job. Now, you don't have to use this stuff as a roadbed, but basically the advantages of it are, it basically makes the track quieter. If you listen to some of my my double O gauge layout videos, you'll hear that on certain parts of the layout the track is quite noisy as the train runs over it. That's because I've attached the track straight down to the baseboard, so I didn't realise what this stuff really did, so I didn't bother putting it down. But on this one here I want it to run quietly, so this here acts as a soundproof. It also acts to help stop vibrations and things like that going through to the track, and it's just all round, it's good. If you can, I'd try and put some down. I think cork is the... Actually, I can't tell you which is the cheaper option, because you get this in a massive roll that covers... I think it's something like 4 foot by 2 foot, the roll I've got, which is huge. No, sorry, 3 foot by 2 foot, the roll I've got, which is massive. And for N-gauge, I cut this into 20 mil wide strips, so 2 centimetre wide strips, and that's absolutely perfect for the track. So when the track sits on it, there's about 2 mil on either side of the track, so it fits right in the middle nicely. Now with double O gauge, I would expect that to be doubled 4.5 centimetres, 4 centimetres, something like that. I'm not too sure. I'm as I said, I haven't done it. But anyway, so the way I do this, I'm actually going to show you me just sticking down one. I've got one more piece to do, which is just up here. As you can see, I've got the lines to lie on, and they're quite useful, I find. What I have done though is left the the ones for the point blank, because they aren't straight. I'm going to be cutting them out individually out of the foam I've got. I've got quite a lot of it left, and that they will fit in that gap quite nicely, and I'll make it work properly. Yes, so then I can move on to the next video, but for the moment I'm just going to show you how I attach this down. Now, get this right. There you go. Now, well, obviously you need your foam. I use just PVA glue. You know, if you do use foam, you've got to check that the glue doesn't eat the foam. PVA glue doesn't, so that's alright. I've also got a ruler and a straight edge and all that, and an angle, 9-degree angle, track pins and hammer, which is down here. I'll keep out of the way for a moment. And finally a knife. So, out of the way. So it's all I do is, excuse me, is you remember you saw me cut, well actually you didn't see me, but I laid down some, so I've just got to cut the corner off of this because it's overlapping the other side slightly. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, in the previous video I drew lines around all my track. Now I discovered those lines are really useful for just applying the glue to. If you just follow the line, because the foam is actually wider than the line, you have no problem with sort of glue squirting out everywhere. Well, it does, but not as bad as, yeah. So I put quite a thick layer of glue on the outside. I missed a bit then. On the end. And then I put one more down the middle. And then when I get this one thinner, I just move a lot quicker. Like that. If you can get it in a dispenser like this, it's really helpful. It's got a screw top and it's really easy just to get a nice straight line out of it. So the next stage is obviously applying the roadbed. Now then, the way I do this is if there's a straight, you don't need to do this next bit. You can just stick it down. You don't need any weight, or at least I found I didn't need to apply any weight or anything to this. It seemed to just sit down quite nicely. I need 3 of them. Oh, I've got a handful now. I'm just going to have to take the camera off the baseboard because I'm about to hammer it. Now, because I'm using PVA glue, you don't have to rush. I know cork, some people use double-sided sticky tape, some people use wallpaper, paste and things like that. don't know if you can see that in the camera. Yeah, you can see I haven't pushed it in very far. You don't need to push it in very far. And then all you do is you follow your lines and you work around. Try not to get glue all over your fingers. There we go. Now the reason I use nails is because, well, quite simply they're simple. I've got absolutely loads of them and they work. The simple reasons why. Now if you push down, occasionally you get an air bubble, airlock trap, so if you just do this, you can feel where there's an air bubble and just push it out. There's one. Finally, one more there. Oops. I'm actually just going to stick one more at the far end. Right, now this is where the straight edge comes in, and all I'm going to do is just measure the distance between them, because I know the other one is straight. 1.5, 1.5, dead straight. There we go. Get rid of my hammer. Move that back. There we go. And that's all you have to do. That is it. The road bed is now stuck down. Just check that. The final thing I do is I just trim off the end, but you can do this when it's dry, but I don't really think it makes much of a difference. Bit of advice, if you do cut off the end and you're doing a straight bit, then just put a nail at the end because it stops it moving around so much. Finally. Sorry, this video's been a bit longer than the other ones, but I thought I'd better show you how to, or at least how I lay the road beds. I know some people are going to have different methods and so on, but that's how I do it. The very last stage is to pick up your piece of track, just check you've got the curve about right, and I can see, yes, I have. As you can see now, when the track sits on it, there's about 1 mil of clearance either side, which is quite good. It gives you a nice bit of room to put ballast and stuff down and stick it on. Get rid of that, there we go. Oh, actually, I've just thought of one other thing. You have seen this occasionally, quite often it's on eBay. It's the foam bedding. Foam road bed, I think they call it, or something, and it's got like the track cut into it. That stuff there is basically the same as this, but slightly more squashy. Basically the same as this, and you can apply it in the same way. That stuff's quite good because you've got track for it to lie into and everything, and you've got bits which are already cut out into the shape of points and stuff, so that's quite good. So the rest of it is now actually stuck down, so what I'm actually going to do is start pulling out the pins from the other half, well, from the rest of the other 90% of the layout. I'm going to be starting to apply the track, which is the next video. So thanks for watching. Any comments or anything, please leave them below. As always, please comment, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching.